Welcome back to another SCBWI Featured Illustrator interview. My name is Tamika Grooms, and I'm the Design and Illustration Manager for SCBWI. Every month, we select an Illustrator member to spotlight on the SCBWI website and social media pages to highlight the work that they're doing in the children's illustration market. This month's featured illustrator is Scott Soeder. Scott, welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm happy that you're here with us today. I know you applied, a few months ago, maybe
Mhm.
twice, possibly. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
But we love to receive people's artwork, to see what they're creating, to see what their updates that they've done. And if people are interested, feel free to send your artwork in so that we can learn more about your work as a member, so that we can feature you. So I'm happy that you took the time to actually send your artwork in and for us to take a look at it. So,
Yeah.
uh,
You encouraged me to do that.
yeah, yeah. um, I want to start with this. When I looked at your artwork, it really reminded me of my childhood, of flipping through the comics in the newspaper, though we don't have newspapers much anymore. But flipping through the Sunday comics, and it just reminded me of my childhood. And I want to learn more about your journey, what inspires you, and yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, Scott.
Thanks, Tamika.
Mhm.
Well, that makes me happy that you say that because that is where my love of artwork started was Sunday funnies. Being a kid in Kentucky, I wasn't exposed much to Picasso or any of fine arts. So it would be stuff. And if I was exposed to it through TV shows and things like that. But Sunday Funnies, where my childhood aspirations were to be a syndicated comic strip artist like Charles Schultz. That's who I wanted to be. That was my hero. And then at night, I wanted to be the drummer for Kiss. I wanted to paint
Okay.
my face. Nobody knew who they were. They were these mysterious people. Who are these guys? And it's like I could draw my cartoons and stuff on the tour bus and in the hotel room and then paint my face and go play drums at night and no one even knew who I was. That sounded so exciting and cool to me. So that's kind of where it started. Um, and books wise, I there were books that I remember reading when I was a kid that I had memories of holding and reading myself. And it was books like Danny and the Dinosaur, P.D. Eastman's Go Dog. Sid Hoff did Danny and the Dinosaur. It was P.D. Eastman, Go Dog Go, The Giving Tree, Shel Silverstein, The Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss. Those books were books that I chose and that I read, and they weren't being read to me. They were books that I chose to read. So those were some of my favorite books, you know, growing up. So that's kind of where it started for me,
Yeah,
childhood wise.
yeah.
So you picked up on it.
Yeah, for sure. And because that was also a part of my childhood too. I read the same books, probably had access to some of the same art. And I'm glad that you said that, like, comics was my introduction to illustrated art. I don't
Mhm.
remember having a lot of children's books in my house as a child, but I definitely remember illustrated comics. And that was
Yeah,
my gateway into what I'm doing now. So,
yeah.
did you always want to be an artist, do you think?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, an artist and musician. That's the 2 things I really wanted to those are the things that I did that made me feel like everything was right in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I did those things, everything kind of lined up like, okay, this something's different here. I don't get
Mm.
this when I'm doing math at my desk at school. I
True.
don't get this feeling, you know.
So
So
true.
it's like there's something with this. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed on your website is, like, you bring that comic humor into your website, into your well, I guess it's a part of your personality. Where do you get your inspiration from when you're coming up with ideas? Like, where does all of that come from?
Uh, Gosh, I don't know. I I had people. My grandfather was very witty,
Mhm.
um, and so I think maybe part of it is just upbringing, just the environment you're in. I just always would laugh when I liked laughing. Friends would make jokes. That was the thing. You make a joke and you get somebody laughing, then it was fun.
Yeah.
So I guess that's part of it is just a love of humor. I like stand-up comedy a lot. I liked, growing up, I got to see people like, Bill Cosby
Mhm.
and stand-up comics and it was awesome because those guys, when you see them stand up, it was just them. There's just a person there with a microphone,
Yeah.
and what they were saying made you laugh, and it was entertaining, but it was very simple. If you laughed, it worked. And they knew it, they knew it. It's like they were either funny or not funny. There was just immediate feedback on what they were doing. If you were standing there and somebody laughed, boom. With
Yeah.
illustration, we often don't always get to see the end result of our work. Hopefully there's kids reading it and enjoying it and laughing, but we might not get to see that. And so I guess that's part of the love of stand-up comedy is you get to see it right away. Everybody laughed. It was funny. It worked, or
Yeah.
something like that. But I guess that's where it comes from. Inspiration, um, just just drawing can inspires me. Just doodling things, something that um, you thought was funny, or one day I don't know why things will pop into your head, and I was thinking of two worms arguing and what would be an insult a worm would say to another worm? Like, what would really get to them? Like, is it fish bait? Is it bird breakfast? What would you say to another worm? Be like, oh man, you really smoked me on, And so I came home and made a whole list. They're in a sketchbook somewhere. I think I had 30 of them and I just started working from that and made a comic from that. So it's just, I don't know, weird things pop in your head. I know a good friend of mine who also, Rob McClurkin. We were talking one day, and he mentioned he was at work one day when he was a graphic designer because I was a graphic designer too. And he said, I wrote this poem about sausages. And he was telling me about it. And I was just listening to him nodding, and I said, and that's why you and I are friends.
Yeah.
It's just the randomest thing you would sit down and do,
Yeah.
that's why your mind works similarly to mine, just weird random things. And you're like, maybe that's funny, or maybe it's not, but you'll draw it or write it down, or come up with a character, and that's where the inspiration starts rolling.
Mm, mm. So I imagine like when you were talking, I was thinking about how they say dinner at the end of a joke because that's like that's the joke, anyway.
Yeah,
um
yeah, I know what you mean.
But it's the thing that we're looking for to make people laugh or to make them engage in some kind of way. And when I was going through your website, there was a few moments, even in the video when you were showing your studio, there were
Hmm.
a few moments on your website. I was like, okay, he's really funny, And you were able to translate that through this digital medium on the website. And so I can only imagine how it is when you're engaging with kids. And the
Yeah, we have
question
a lot of fun.
probably ask you, you know.
Yeah. Oh, questions. Well, actually, on my website, there's a frequently asked questions, and
Uh-huh.
those are a collection of things that kids have said to me. Just random things that I thought were, and then I tried to answer in a humorous way. But yeah, I love the way their minds work. They just rapid fire. Everything is new. Everything is exciting. They're trying to figure out stuff, and but they're smart too. Some of the
Mhm.
things they've said really made me think about something, and I'm failing to come up with a good example on the spot, but just these two disparate things you think don't go together, and they would say it, and then they would explain why, and you go, that makes total sense if you don't have any contextual clue about what it is. They're just putting these things together, and they made a connection between them, and that's creativity.
Yeah.
connecting those things that don't seem like they go together, but you find the thread between them. That's what we're doing all the time, with characters, worms or whatever animals we're doing. We're finding these things between them and us and applying some of our image to them, and they're the way they move and think, and we're putting this on there, and that's where we get some of the humor, or if it's not humor, or drama, or whatever message we're trying to convey to somebody. That's where we get those things to come together in that. So I love talking to kids. They're hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about often at these conferences is, not trying to teach children through our writing, not trying to tell them how to be, or set these big lofty examples, but really kind of get down to, I don't want to say down to their level, but speak to them in ways that they'll understand. And I think that a lot of times we have to remember that as illustrators too, to not be preachy, or to not come at them as a way like I'm trying to teach you something, but that I understand how you think and you process the world, and then let's figure out how to move the story through that, and move into a way that brings you to a good conclusion, that maybe you learn something, you probably will, but not in a teachy preachy type of way, so
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you say that because in school, I can remember when, we were working on a lesson and then we would take a break and it was story time. I don't know if you had that, but we had a little break and she would do a story time and she'd whip out a book. And if it was going to be something that was along those lines, I could smell it from a mile away. And I was like, oh, why can't we just have fun right now? This is supposed to be a break from the learning part, and now here she is, and I was like, I'll go back to Cat in the Hat or whatever, whatever it was. You're just like, oh, you ruined story time.
yeah.
That's how, and I still remember that. Like, if oh, I didn't like that. Now, if it was baked into something that was entertaining at the
Mhm.
end, if they gave you the moral or something, like, oh, okay, fine. But right at the beginning, if she read the title or something, you're just like, oh man, she just killed story time for me. I
Yeah.
I do remember. I do have memories of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if kids still feel the same way, but I think they do. Um,
Mhm.
they wanna learn. I think kids are interested in learning, but they wanna have fun doing it for
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
all of us do,
All
because
all of us do.
parents and teachers have got to read these books too, and I think
Yeah,
all of us want to be entertained, and kind of let us figure our way through, instead of being preached and taught to
yeah.
all. Yeah,
I mean, I love my job.
yeah.
I love coming down. This is my this is my studio. It's a call it studio. That sounds fancy. It's a spare room in our basement. So that's what it really is. I'm in a hole in the ground drawing. Um, but I do love it. I do love coming and down here and drawing and figuring things out. It's not always glamorous. It's not always as fun as it would seem. If you're really having trouble, you know, drawing a horse, horses are hard to draw. Whatever it is you
Hmm.
have to draw, or you're trying to get a character to do something that um, you just can't seem to get it to do. That's frustrating too. Um, yeah, so that there are challenges to the job,
What
but
do you do when
overall,
you
it's
run in?
very fun.
What do you do when you run into those moments?
Scream and yell and throw no, I'm kidding. Throw a tantrum. No, I sometimes I will switch to something else. It depends on the feeling I have. Like if I feel like I am just watering a fake plant, I'm
Mhm.
just it is not going to happen. I will switch to something else. Switch over to doing this, drawing this part or this part, and come back to it. If it's something I feel like I will get there if I keep going, that's just a feeling. Sometimes you're an illustrator too, Tamika. You're working on something, and I feel like it's it's getting close, or maybe even if it's not close, but you feel like you haven't exhausted all the effort on it yet to
Yeah,
determine whether it's not working, then you'll just keep going. But if you've tried all the things in your usual bag of tricks, and or it's just you've done all these different things and it's still not working, that's where I'll pull back and take it. So I have a guitar back here. Sometimes I'll just strum on the guitar for a little bit and
yeah,
go, and then something will come to me and I could try something else. It's just, I guess it's just switching your focus off for a minute, letting your brain rest, because maybe you're too targeted on something that isn't gonna work, and you have to find a different angle. So
yeah. I've I've found that for me, going outside helps a lot.
yeah,
Especially if I've been working on something for way too long, because I won't even see it the way it actually looks. I see it with, how my brain sees it. And then I
yeah,
come back to it and I was like, that doesn't look right? But sometimes it helps to breathe some fresh air or to put your hands in the soil or go do hula hoop, whatever it is,
right,
strum a guitar, play a drum, whatever it is that kind of
yeah,
breaks up that mental process that you've been stuck in for the artwork. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Going outside is that helps too, for
hmm
sure.
Um, I want to share some of your artwork on your website. So I'm going to switch over
Okay.
in just a moment. You still see your screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so we have Scott's website here. Hopefully you all can see the screen pretty clearly. I'm just going to scroll down and show you just a little bit of what Scott has here on his website. So lots of books and some illustrations. I'm not gonna zoom in too much on these, but I really enjoyed this one with the worms that you mentioned. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's really cute. Reminds me of my brothers when I was younger. So we just kind of
Yep.
bother each other because we
I
can't.
had siblings too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And one of the things I like about more comic and graphic styles is that you can tell so much in a smaller space, like on the page. Um, you can get so much story in there. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah. So
There's
you.
there's more move. There's a lot of movement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you do animated work or movie type work?
I I want it. So another one of my aspirations. So when I was a kid, it was a syndicated comic strip artist. As I got a little older, I wanted to be an animator.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at going to school for animation,
Mm-hmm.
um, and did not go, but I wish sometimes I would have. So no, I have done some animation. There was a web series that I worked on for a company. It was a series of it was animated, and I did the animation for one of the seasons. And then I got kind of busy, and then they got some people that were better qualified to animate, and I did storyboards for
Ah,
a couple seasons. So I've had that little touch of animation.
yeah.
Um, I've done some work I did some animation for one of my favorite bands. There's a band called 311. They were big in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And every March 11th, they would do a big show in Las Vegas. And I got to do some animation that announced the band to the stage for their 311 day show at the MGM Grand. So
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty cool. So I have done a little bit of animation, but I'm not an animator.
I
But I
got you.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that I always like dream about is doing a storyboard for a movie, and maybe one day I'll do that. But I could see how your work could fit into storyboarding and movies and film and all that stuff too. So.
Yeah, if you have experienced comics, you
Hmm.
can do it's that sequential art, that visual storytelling.
Yeah.
So you could do it, you
Yeah.
know. but there are some very good visual development and storyboard artists
Yeah, I
that are
got
really good. Yeah.
you. So on the screen, I have the featured illustration for this month. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration that caused you to create this. I mean, I know the theme, but tell us a little bit about this artwork.
Yeah, drawing, sketching things, and doing some costume design things in the sketchbook. And I started drawing children in Halloween costumes. And then when I started to think about trick or treating when I was a kid and things that we did, so I started to just work out how I would visually set up what it looked like in my mind trick or
Hmm.
treating. You know,
Hmm.
the things I remember walking down the street in the neighborhood, um, those that those fall colors, you know, these what we associate with Halloween and fall, that lime green, the bright orange. So I kind of worked up a little color palette, and then taking different characters from my sketchbook and redrawing them in there, and just try to give the feeling of what it felt like, you know, in the 80s when you were walking around. And the character that's dressed up in the bones, he has a pillowcase and not a real Halloween, like the little girl has the little
Yeah.
pumpkin that we saw later on. But when I was a kid, it was a pillowcase. You took a
Uh-huh.
pillowcase around, and my friend next door, we devised a route, and we would try to fill those two pillowcases up, man. And we did. You know, it was a free for all. Go get all the candy you can get, just a
Yeah.
mound of it, you know. Yeah, I was
Oh,
just trying to get that feeling across in an image. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love the energy of the picture, the colors, the characters, the way you've actually rendered, played with the brushes. I'm assuming you're doing digital, is that right?
This is digital,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with you. It reminded me of my childhood too. And we used to make our costumes. Um,
Mhm.
I've used pillowcases, but when we lived on a military base, everybody participated in trick-or-treating. So there was a couple times that we had those big black trash bags
Oh,
and
yeah.
came back full. So we loved Halloween growing up. It was a lot of fun. So this just made me feel like my childhood coming back to
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It does. You watching The Great Pumpkin on TV,
Yeah.
you know, that whole build up for Halloween at school, you were gonna get candy, you know, around your neighborhood, you were gonna go trick or treat, get candy. I don't even
Yeah.
remember going to Halloween parties when I was a kid. It was at
Mm-mm.
school and then walking around the neighborhood. That's where you got all your treats.
Yeah.
So
I think they should have trick-or-treating for adults. I think we need to make that a thing.
yeah, I'm down for that. I would love to do that.
So do you have any books you want to share with us? We have a few here on the website.
Yeah, this is the latest one I've done.
Uh,
It came out in February, so right after the New York conference,
okay.
and it's a graphic novel series published by Source Books. It's 64 pages. It's a young reader series. Um, so yeah, it's a lot of fun to work on. Marin is my art director on it. It's a fun project. So there's more of them coming. They just haven't published yet.
Gotcha. Good, good, good. Series are wonderful. And you have
Yeah.
and you were
Oh
talking
yeah,
about horses.
this is a board book that I did. This is Arcadia Kids. It's a local interest. That publisher does a lot of local interest stuff, and I did the Louisville one.
Right.
Um, Mary Ewells, who is the illustrator coordinator or was the illustrator coordinator in Mid South, I am now.
Hmm.
She did the Nashville one, so it's kind of cool that she did the one in Nashville and I did the one for Louisville.
Very cool. Very
Hmm.
cool. And you have several books here in this last one, Coop Squad.
Yeah, this is Coop Squad. This is a graphic novel too. It's a 64-page graphic novel. This was for Southwestern. The imprint is called Blue Sneaker Press. That's who did all their kids' books. So I
Oh,
did a graphic novel. That's an older one. Yeah,
Okay.
super fun. Lots of underwater stuff, and I got to draw sharks, which I love to draw sharks. So
Yeah. So I saw on your, I'm going to stop sharing. I saw on your website that you're into water and sharks and all that stuff. How did you get into having an interest in that? Because you don't live near ocean.
no, I don't, I'm in Kentucky, so that's a very odd thing. Um, well, in school, we had our librarian, Mrs. French, that I loved going into the library when I was a kid, and I loved like all boys like dinosaurs and sharks and outer space, and I just read all the books that we had on sharks, became this little shark nerd,
Mhm.
and we had an above ground pool in my backyard growing up, and I can remember my dad teaching me to go underwater and open my eyes, and I would never do it. I'd go underwater and come back up. I was like, I couldn't do it. It's something about it freaked me out. But then I remember the first time I did, I still have this memory of my dad like looking back at me underwater, and I thought, this is the coolest thing ever, that you can go underwater and open your eyes. And that made me want to learn how to scuba dive. So then later I got certified to be a scuba diver, and I have a friend who's a marine biologist, and
Mhm.
he in Boston, and he took me in the New England Aquarium, so I got to dive in the New England Aquarium with all kinds of species, sharks, turtles, all kinds of stuff. And then when I got married on my honeymoon, we went to Hawaii, and I dove in a place called the Molokini Crater off of the coast of Maui. That's the best dive I've ever gone on. It was unbelievable, National Geographic level stuff. Big 12-foot pelagic manta ray would sailed in over top of us, and I saw octopus and the sharks. I mean, just all kinds of crazy cool stuff. So I don't know. I've just been kind of fascinated with that part of the world. So that's where the love comes from my backyard swimming pool and reading books in my school library, and
Yeah.
just carried that through to trying to do it in a bigger way, even though I'm landlocked.
Yeah, yeah. I love to hear what creative people do outside of their creativity. Because it's like the world is, you can do anything. And the fact that you get to be an artist during your day job or whatever, and then you have these other hobbies, it makes you such a more well-rounded person and more interesting. So I love to hear what people do outside of their creativity too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, mostly it's music. You can do that anywhere. So
Yeah.
I play in a band with some guys I went to high school with, and we just released an album. We wrote an album and recorded it and released it. So that's, I tell people some guys play golf and I play music. That's my
Nice.
that's my hobby. But
Nice.
yeah, I love the ocean and music and that stuff, and that shows up a lot in pieces that I make for myself and other things. You'll see that in my illustration work.
Yeah. So, can you tell us what made you join SCBWI?
I can. It was Rob McClurkin, my illustrator friend Rob McClurkin. He On a phone call with him. So we how we met is there was a website called Dribble, and I think it's still around. But it was an invite only website if you're not familiar with it. And when you joined, you had to know somebody. So somebody would give you an invite, and then you would go get on there, and then they would give you a couple invites, and you can invite other people too. And the idea was that you would take screenshots of what you were working on or photos of what you were working on, and you would put it on the site and you would get feedback. So it was kind of like a big critique group. It became more of like a portfolio site in later times, but at the beginning, that's where it started. And um, Rob and I met on that site by critiquing each other's work. And that from the internet became, can I just, Rob and I are talkers and not typers. So it's like, can we just get on the phone and so we would get on the phone and go, I think if you move this over and do this kind of thing. So that's where our friendship started. And he told me later, are you a member of SCBWI? And I said, no, I've heard of it, but is it anything? You know, is it? And he's like, no, man, it's legit. It's good. You should be a part of it. They have conferences, and so he's the one that really told me more about it because I had bought those guides. You know, you go to the bookstore, you could buy the little guide that's like the children's writers and illustrator guide, and it would mention SCBWI in there. So that's how I knew of the organization. But it was really a personal recommendation from another illustrator that got me to join.
Yeah.
Um, and he's been my conference buddy for many conferences. We room together sometimes, and you know, go to a lot of the same conferences. So yeah, he's been a great friend, and really that's exactly where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob has always been a great resource for me as well, and just an all-around great guy too. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, he is a superior human being.
Yes. Yes. So I have a couple more questions for you.
Mhm.
The first one I'd like for you to answer is there a question that you would like to ask our next featured illustrator?
Okay, yeah, that is a tough question, but the thing that immediately popped to my head was, um, what would you want a kid to think or feel when they saw your artwork?
Hmm.
What would it be? Um, for me, it's joy. I would like them to think or feel joy when they look at stuff that I'm working on drawing, whether it's reading a story that I've written and drawn, or just looking at, a story that someone else had written and I illustrated it. I would like them to feel that part of it. Because I
Yeah.
think if they feel that, then it gets them reading. You know, they might go, "Oh, I want to see more. I want to read more. I want to do more." Maybe even pick up a pencil and start drawing some of their own things. So that's the question that immediately popped ahead. I did get a little time to think about it, but that's what popped into my head.
I love that question because it makes me think for myself as an illustrator, what do I want that reader to feel? And so I'm going to take that and use it for myself and also share it with the next featured illustrator. So thank you for
Okay.
that question. It was great.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So tell everybody how they can learn more about your artwork, where they can find you online, and yeah,
Yeah, you can find me at scottsoeder.com. That's my website. On Instagram at Scott Soeder, and Blue Sky at Scott Soeder as well. I think I have all of those at Scott Soeder. So just my name. There
perfect.
is a psychology professor with the same name, so if you Google me, sometimes you might get some of him, or he's a doctor or something. I can't remember, but there's when some kind of new social media pops up, I go, I don't know if that's going to be good, but I'm going to go get my name just so the doctor doesn't get it and I can
Yeah.
have it if I want.
I'm laughing because I
Yeah,
Googled you and I was like, that's not Scott.
yeah, no, there's he went a different direction than I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, thank you for the warning. We'll make sure we find the right Scott Soder and maybe
yeah,
add illustrator at the end of it in the Google
yeah,
search.
yeah, or the goofy one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that works too.
sounds good. Well, Scott, you've been a pleasure to chat with today. Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you. And I guess we'll see you soon.
Yeah, you'll see. Find me at a conference. Or anywhere. If you see me on the street, hey,
Sounds good. All
yeah.
right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tamika.